Welcome to Learn English with Stories. If you're someone who wants to improve your English while being inspired by powerful stories, you're in the right place. Today, you're about to begin a very special journey, a story that's not just about success, but about rising from failure, doubt, and fear. This is the story of a quiet boy who sat at the very back of the class, a last bencher no one believed in. But deep inside, he had a fire that even he didn't understand yet. One day that fire would light up a path no one thought he could walk. So sit back, open your heart, and let this story inspire not only your English, but your entire life. Welcome to Chapter 1 of The Invisible One. In a small town tucked between the hills and the river, there lived a boy named Aryan. Aryan was ordinary. No one noticed him. No one called his name. He was always the boy in the last row. In school, he sat at the back. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't ask questions. He didn't even make eye contact with the teacher. His marks were average. His clothes were simple. His voice was quiet, too quiet to be heard in a room full of noise. Other students laughed, played, shouted, and lived as if the world belonged to them. But Aryan, he watched, he listened, he stayed behind, like a shadow. At home, things were not easy either. His father worked long hours in a garage. His mother stitched clothes for neighbors. They loved Aryan. But love wasn't always enough to feed dreams. One night, after dinner, Aryan looked up at the stars. He whispered to himself, "Will I always be invisible?" No one answered. Only the wind moved gently through the trees, as if the world was silent to his question. In class, when the teacher asked questions, Aryan looked down, even when he knew the answer. He was afraid. Afraid to be wrong, afraid to be laughed at. He had ideas, dreams, thoughts that danced in his mind like butterflies, but they never left his lips. He thought, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this is just my life. But something was changing, slow-quietly, like a seed growing underground. One day, a teacher came to class. Her name was Miss Raina. She looked different, not in clothes, but in her eyes. Her eyes saw people others didn't see. When she looked at Aryan, she didn't just see a last bencher. She saw a boy who wanted to speak, a boy who had words in his heart. The first time she asked Aryan a question, he froze. His lips shook, his hands trembled, and yet he spoke. Soft, broken, but real. The class laughed, as they always did. But Miss Raina didn't. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Aryan. That was a good answer." That was the first time someone said good about him. That night, Aryan looked at the stars again. He whispered, "Maybe I can change." Change didn't happen overnight. He still sat at the back, still stayed quiet. But he started reading. Books became his best friend. He wrote in a diary, wrote thoughts, poems, dreams. He didn't show it to anyone. But slowly, he was changing from the inside. And what no one knew, not even Aryan himself, was that one day, this quiet boy would do something that would inspire millions. Chapter 2. The Whisper That Grew Loud. A whisper is a quiet sound, so soft that the world often ignores it. But sometimes, that whisper is the beginning of something powerful. After Miss Raina smiled at Aryan, something changed inside him. It was small, it was gentle, but it was real. He still walked to school alone, still ate his lunch in silence, still sat at the last bench. But now, he carried a little spark in his heart. Every evening, Aryan opened his notebook, not for homework, but to write. He wrote about his day, he wrote about his fears, and sometimes he wrote stories. Stories about heroes, stories about kids like him who felt small but dreamed big. He didn't know why he wrote. He just knew it made him feel free. One day, Miss Raina walked into class with a poster. It said, "Inter-School Story Writing Competition Open to All Students." The class got excited. Some laughed, some said they would win, some didn't care. Aryan just looked at it and thought, "Can I try?" That night, he couldn't sleep. His heart was full of words. His mind was full of fear. What if my story is bad? What if they laugh again? But then he remembered Miss Raina's smile, and one sentence echoed in his heart. That was a good answer. So he picked up his pen and he wrote. He wrote about a little bird who had small wings, but a strong heart. The bird couldn't fly at first. Others laughed, but the bird kept trying. One day, it jumped from the highest tree, and it flew. Aryan finished the story with tears in his eyes. It was not just a story, it was his story. The next morning, he gave the paper to Miss Raina. His hands shook, his heart raced, but he gave it. Miss Raina read it during lunch. She didn't say anything right away. Later that day, she called Aryan to the staff room. Aryan, she said, this story is beautiful. Would you allow me to submit it under your name? Aryan blinked. He had never heard those words before. Beautiful? That word was never for him. He nodded, softly, but with a new light in his eyes. Weeks passed. Aryan kept writing, quietly, every night. He didn't think about the competition much, until one day, during the school assembly, the principal came on stage. She said, "We are proud to announce that a student from our school has won the inter-school story writing competition." Students looked at each other, guessing names. Then she said, "Aryan Sharma, Class 8B. The whole class turned. Aryan? The boy at the back? Him? Aryan stood slowly, his legs shook, but his heart was louder than ever before. As he walked to the stage, he remembered something. He was once just a whisper. Now he was starting to be heard. And that was just the beginning. Chapter 3, The Rise of the Quiet Hero. When Aryan walked off the stage, he felt something new. Not in the air, not in the room, but deep inside. It was confidence, a small, glowing light in a heart that had always been afraid. He didn't become a new person overnight. He still walked quietly, still sat at the back, but this time he held his head a little higher. In the next English class, Ms. Raina gave the students a task. Everyone will prepare a short speech. You'll speak in front of the class. The room went silent. Some students groaned, others rolled their eyes, but Aryan, he felt something else. What if I try? What if I speak? That night, Aryan stared at his notebook. Blank page, blank mind, shaking hands. But then he remembered the bird, the little bird in his story. If that bird could fly, he could speak. He wrote a short speech, only one page, simple, from the heart. The next day, students began reading, loud voices, confident faces, jokes, laughter, applause. Then it was Aryan's turn. He stood up, walked to the front, his heartbeat echoed in his ears. Don't be afraid. Just speak. He looked at the class, took a deep breath, and began. My name is Aryan. I used to sit at the back because I thought I didn't belong. But one teacher, one smile showed me that I do. The room was quiet. No laughter, no noise, just respect. Some students even nodded. One clapped, then another. Soon, the class was filled with applause. That was the moment. Aryan, the invisible boy, became Aryan, the brave speaker. After class, a boy named Karan walked up to him. Hey, your speech was really good. Aryan smiled. Thanks. It was the first time a classmate had said that. From that day on, students looked at Aryan differently, not as the last bencher, but as someone worth knowing. It wasn't fame, it wasn't popularity, but it was a beginning. He started joining discussions, raising his hand, even helping others in class. Miss Raina often smiled at him, and once she whispered, "You've always had it in you." Aryan believed her now. He joined the school's English club, started helping junior students with their writing. He even wrote a short story that was published in the school magazine. The boy who once whispered to the stars was now inspiring others. One day, while helping a shy girl write her first story, she asked him, "How did you become so confident?" He smiled and said, "I didn't. I just stopped listening to fear and started listening to my heart." Sometimes a hero doesn't wear a cape. Sometimes a hero doesn't fight dragons. Sometimes a hero just learns to believe in himself. Aryan was rising, slowly, steadily, silently, but surely. And his journey was far from over. Chapter 4, The Test That Changed Everything. Every student remembers one test, the one that makes their hands sweat, their heart beat faster, and their mind go blank. For Aryan, that test was coming soon. It was the midterm English exam, a writing test, essay comprehension, grammar, and creative writing. 1 year ago, Aryan wouldn't have cared. He would have stared at the blank page, maybe written his name, maybe not even that. But now, things were different. He had discovered something. He had a voice, a gift, a spark that was growing. Your essay topic will be given on the spot, Miss Raina announced. You'll have 1 hour. Just you, your pen, and your heart. The day came. Aryan sat at his desk. His fingers shook slightly. The invigilator walked by each desk and placed a folded paper in front of every student. Aryan slowly opened his paper. The essay topic was, "The Person Who Changed My Life." Aryan stared at the words. Then he smiled. He began to write. He wrote about a smile, a teacher, a moment. He wrote about Miss Raina. He described the first time someone believed in him, How one sentence, that was a good answer, had lit a fire in the darkness. He wrote about fear, about courage, about the power of a kind word. His words weren't fancy, they weren't perfect, but they were true, and they came from his soul. When the exam ended, Aryan sat still. His hands were tired, but his heart felt light. He whispered to himself, I did my best. That's enough. 2 weeks passed. Students forgot the test. Some worried, some didn't care, but Aryan remembered every word he had written. Then one morning, the English teacher entered the classroom holding a stack of papers. Class, she said, I read every single essay. Most were good, some were excellent. She paused, but one essay moved me to tears. The class leaned in. Miss Raina looked straight at Aryan. Aryan Sharma, your words reminded me why I became a teacher. The class clapped, but Aryan just looked down and smiled quietly. Later that day, Miss Raina handed Aryan his paper, a red mark at the top, 100, 100, thank you for your beautiful story. That wasn't just a grade, it was a medal, a crown. Aryan had once been invisible. Now his words were being read, felt, remembered. It wasn't about winning, it was about becoming. That evening, Aryan sat at his desk. He didn't write a story that night. He wrote something else. A letter. Dear Miss Raina, I don't know how to say this in big words, but you changed my life. You didn't just teach me English, you taught me to believe. He folded the letter carefully and placed it inside her desk the next morning. She never spoke about it, but she smiled at him for a little longer that day. Sometimes a test is not about grades. It's not about marks. It's about discovering who you are. And Aryan was finally discovering himself. Chapter 5, The Stage and the Storm. Aryan's name was slowly spreading across the school. Not because he was loud, not because he tried to be noticed, but because he was true, real, honest. His essay was read aloud by teachers in other classes. His story was shared in the morning assembly. And then one day came a surprise. The annual Talent Fest is coming. Students can perform songs, dances, and even speeches. Aryan's heart skipped a beat. A speech? On stage? Could he do that? Could he stand, not in front of a classroom, but in front of the entire school? At lunch, Miss Raina came to him quietly. Aryan, would you like to speak at the fest? You don't have to, but I think your words could inspire so many. He looked into her eyes. She wasn't pushing him, she was inviting him to be brave. He said softly, yes. That night, Aryan couldn't sleep. He sat with his notebook, blank page, again. But this time, no fear. He began writing. My name is Aryan. I was not born brave. I was not born confident, but I was born with a voice. And today, I choose to use it. He wrote for hours, crossing lines, rewriting words, feeling every sentence. When he showed his speech to Miss Raina, she didn't say anything at first. She just wiped her eyes. It's beautiful, Aryan. The big day came. The auditorium was full. Students, teachers, parents, bright lights, a large stage, a tall microphone. One by one, students performed. Singers, dancers, poets. Then the host called. Next, we have a special speech by Aryan Sharma, Class 9B. Aryan walked up the steps. His hands were cold, his legs weak, but his eyes strong. He stood before the mic, looked at hundreds of faces, and he spoke. Good morning. I once sat at the back of the class because I thought my voice didn't matter. I thought no one would care what I had to say until one day someone did. And that changed everything. He spoke for 5 minutes about fear, about silence, about finding the courage to rise. I am not special, I am not perfect, but I am learning to love who I am, and if I can speak today, so can you. Silence, then one clap, then two, then all. The hall echoed with claps. Aryan didn't bow, he just smiled and walked off the stage with a heart full of peace. After the show, many students came to him. Your words made me cry. You're so brave, Aryan. Thank you. I just shared my truth. Miss Raina hugged him. You weren't just good, you were unforgettable. Aryan looked around. Same school, same uniform, same halls. But something had changed. He had found his voice, and this time, he would never lose it again. Chapter 6. When the storm hit home, success was growing around Aryan. Confidence, recognition, hope. But life has a strange way of testing you when you finally begin to stand tall. One evening, Aryan returned home from school. He noticed something different. The door was open, his father's shoes were missing, and his mother was sitting on the floor, crying. Ma? Aryan asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she looked at him and said the words no child wants to hear. Your father, he's gone. Gone? Where? Why? Did he leave? Was he coming back? Aryan's father had lost his job, and with it, he had lost his pride. Instead of talking, he had walked away. No note, no message, just silence. For Aryan, this wasn't just about losing a parent, it was about losing his balance. Why now? Why, when things were finally getting better? That night, Aryan sat with his mother. She had cooked a simple meal, but didn't touch it. She stared at her hands, tired hands, working hands. Aryan placed his hand over hers. It's okay, Ma, we're still here. We'll be okay. From that day, Aryan became more than a son. He became her reason to smile, her reason to keep going. He helped with chores, he managed school, he stopped asking for new things, stopped complaining. But at night, when the lights were off, he cried. Not loudly, just a tear on his pillow. But pain also has the power to shape us. One day, Miss Rina noticed something. Aryan was quieter. His eyes, darker. His smile, slower. Aryan, is everything okay at home? He paused. Then he told her the truth. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. And after he finished, she said something he would never forget. Pain can break you or it can build you. Aryan nodded, not fully understanding, but feeling something shift inside him. Slowly, things started moving again. Aryan's mother found a job in a local tailoring shop. It wasn't much, but it was something. Aryan began tutoring younger students in English, 1 hour a day, helping them while helping himself. Every day he came home tired, but not defeated. In pain, he had found purpose. Then one afternoon, a new notice went up on the school board. All students are invited to participate in the district English speech contest. Miss Rina turned to Aryan. You should enter, Aryan. I don't feel strong these days. Then speak about that. Speak about what real strength looks like. That night, Aryan didn't write a speech. He wrote a story. A story of a boy who sat at the back of the class, who failed, who cried alone, but who learned that courage was showing up even when life breaks you. The contest hall was large, students from many schools, bright lights, tense faces. Aryan waited patiently. Next up, we have Aryan Sharma from Sunshine High School. He stood behind the mic. I come from a small house, a quiet home, one parent, a broken family, but today, I'm not here as someone who gave up. I'm here because I learned that even in darkness, you can choose to light your own candle. I didn't win a spelling bee, I didn't come first in class, but I learned how to keep going when everything feels lost. And that is also a kind of success. After his speech, the hall stood up. Yes, a standing ovation. Aryan didn't cry, he smiled. Because this time, his strength wasn't loud. It was steady. Aryan didn't win first place, he came second. But for him, it felt like gold. And that night when he returned home, his mother had a surprise. We found him, your father. He's safe, he wants to talk to you. Aryan stood still, tears in his eyes. But this time, they weren't from sadness. They were from healing. The storm had come. It had shaken everything. But Aryan was still standing. Chapter 7. The Letter That Changed a Life. Some moments don't feel important at first. They arrive quietly, no loud noise, no grand event, just a paper, a letter, a few simple words that change everything. Aryan stepped into his classroom. It felt like an ordinary day. He had his books, he had his pen, he had his silence. But Ms. Rayna called him aside. Aryan, you've received a letter. It came to the principal's office. It's from someone important. Aryan held the envelope in his hands. It had an official seal. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in meaning. He opened it slowly and began to read. Dear Aryan Sharma, we recently came across your speech delivered at the District English Contest. Your story touched us deeply. It reminded us why education matters, why courage matters, why students like you matter. We are pleased to inform you that you've been selected for the National Young Writers Workshop to be held in Delhi next month. Keep writing, keep speaking, keep shining. With admiration, the National Education Trust. Aryan's hands began to shake. Ms. Rina watched his face, her own eyes filling with tears. You did it, Aryan. Your voice reached beyond this classroom. It reached the world. He didn't know what to say. He had never been on a plane. He had never left his city. But now, his words would take him to places his feet had never dreamed of. That evening, he showed the letter to his mother. Delhi? They want you? Beta, this is your dream. But Ma, who will take care of everything here? What about your work? The money? The ticket? We'll find a way. You've always been my pride. Now let the world see what I see. Miss Raina helped arrange sponsorship. Teachers pooled in money. Even students offered help. It was no longer his journey. It was theirs. He stood at the station, holding a small bag, a notebook, a pen, and dreams so big they barely fit in his chest. He waved goodbye to his mother, to Miss Raina, to his school. He was going to Delhi. The city was huge, bigger than he imagined. Taller buildings, faster cars, so many people. But Aryan walked with calm eyes. The workshop was held in a beautiful learning center. There were students from all over India, from cities, from towns, from places he had never heard of. And yet, they all listened when Aryan spoke. On the third day, the lead mentor gave them a task. Write a letter, but not to anyone else. Write it to your younger self. Aryan stared at his notebook. What would he say to the boy who used to sit on the last bench? Dear Aryan, I know you feel invisible. I know you think you're not enough, but listen to me. One day you'll speak and people will listen. One day you'll stand on a stage not to prove anything, but just to share your truth. And that truth will carry you further than you ever imagined. So don't give up. Don't stay quiet. You are not weak. You are just waiting for the right moment to become who you were always meant to be. With love, Aryan. When he finished reading, everyone was quiet. No one clapped. They just looked at him, as if they had seen something rare. Then the mentor stood up. That was not just writing. That was healing. That letter, written to himself, became the most powerful thing Aryan had ever shared. And in that moment, he wasn't just the last bench student anymore. He was a writer, a speaker, a healer. He was a legend in the making. Chapter 8, The Call That Brought Tears. Aryan returned from Delhi with a heart full of stories and a mind full of dreams. He was no longer the boy who sat in the shadows. He was becoming someone who created light for others. The school felt different now, not because it had changed, but because he had. Students waved at him. Teachers smiled wider. Even the principal called him by name. Aryan had earned something no award could ever give: respect. One afternoon, Miss Raina stood beside Aryan's desk. Aryan, would you like to mentor some junior students? They admire you. Me? But I'm not a teacher. You don't need to be. You just have to be you. So Aryan began helping. Just a few students at first. Kids who were shy, kids who were struggling, kids who reminded him of himself. Aryan sat across from a boy named Adi. Adi didn't speak much. He avoided eye contact. His notebook was mostly empty. Do you know why I'm here, Adi? Adi shook his head. I was you once. I failed. I hid. I thought no one would care. But someone did, and that changed everything. Now it's my turn to do the same for you. Day by day, Adi's eyes grew brighter. He started asking questions, started writing, started believing. One evening, Aryan was sitting at the window, his diary in hand. The city outside was calm, the sky painted in soft oranges and pinks. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Aryan, Beta? It's me. It was his father. I'm sorry. I left when I should have stayed. I ran because I was ashamed. But not a day has gone by when I didn't think of you. Aryan couldn't speak at first. His hands trembled, his throat tightened, tears filled his eyes. Where are you now? I'm back in the city. I want to see you, if you'll allow it. Aryan looked at his mother. She had been listening quietly. She nodded slowly. Okay. Forgiveness is not easy, but sometimes it is the key that unlocks the future. His father stood waiting, older, thinner, but familiar. Aryan walked up. They stood for a moment, no words, just eyes. Then slowly, his father opened his arms, and Aryan stepped into them. They didn't speak much that day, but sometimes tears say what words never can. For the first time in years, Aryan's small house felt whole, not perfect, but healing. In school, Aryan continued to mentor. He helped Adi win his first award. He helped 3 more students write speeches. But more than anything, he helped them believe that failure is not the end. A mark on a paper does not measure your heart. A seat at the back does not define your worth. You matter. Your story matters. Aryan had once searched for a voice. Now, he had become a voice for others. And as he walked out of school that day, Adi ran after him. Baya, you're not just our mentor. You're our hero. I'm just someone who didn't give up. Chapter 9, The Last Bench Becomes the First Years had passed since Aryan first walked into that classroom and quietly sat on the last bench. He still remembered the dust, the silence, the fear. But now, when he walked into school, everything was different. Not just outside, but inside him. The sun rose softly behind the school building. Students gathered. Teachers stood waiting. There was excitement in the air. Today was not just any day. Today was Aryan's graduation day. He was not just graduating, he was being honored for academic excellence, for leadership, for contribution. He walked up the steps with slow, steady feet. No one whispered now, no one laughed. All eyes were on him, but not with judgment, with respect. Years ago, Aryan sat in the last row of this hall, quiet, afraid, alone. Today, he stands in front of you as the best student of our school, not just because of marks, but because of heart. Aryan stepped forward. He held the microphone and paused. He looked around, at the faces, at the benches, and finally, at the last row. I used to sit back there, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't believe I deserved to sit anywhere else. I thought I was dumb. I thought I was nothing. But someone believed in me, my teacher, my mother, myself. And slowly, I learned that your seat doesn't decide your future. Your belief does. He took a breath and smiled. If you're sitting in the last row today, don't be ashamed. Be patient. Your time is coming. Use every pain as a push. Use every failure as fuel, because the last bench can become the first. Then applause, not loud, but full of feeling. She hugged him tightly. You did it. You made them believe. I couldn't have done it without you. You always had it in you. I just helped you see it. True teachers don't just give knowledge, they give light. A letter lay on his bed. Dear Aryan, we are pleased to offer you a full scholarship to the University of Mumbai. Chapter 10. The legend lives on. Years passed. The benches were replaced. The classrooms were painted. The school had changed. But one thing remained. The story, Aryan's story. The campus buzzed with energy. Laughter echoed through the halls. Students carried laptops, books, dreams. And in the middle of it all was Aryan. He was no longer just a student. He was now a leader, a mentor, a dreamer with direction. Aryan stood at the front of a small group. Today, we're not just learning English, we're learning courage. We're learning to speak even when our voice shakes. Aryan had started a group, The Voice Within, a safe space for students afraid to speak. Just like he once was, the boy stutters, his hands tremble, but Aryan nods gently. It's okay, you're doing better than you think. And slowly, the boy speaks. Then another, and another. Because when one person dares to stand, others rise too. His room was small, but his dreams were big. He opened his old diary. The first page was smudged with age. I am not good enough, he smiled, and underneath it he wrote, but I became more than I ever imagined. Sometimes your story starts in silence, but it ends in echoes. The building looks smaller now, but the memories felt larger. Miss Raina was waiting at the gate. Welcome back, Aryan. I had to return. There's something I want to do. Students gathered, just like they once did. Curious eyes, young hearts. Aryan stood at the front. I was one of you. I failed in this school. I cried in these halls. I sat on that last bench. He pointed at the very last row. But I want to tell you something important. That last bench is not a punishment. It's a waiting place. Waiting for you to rise, to discover your strength, to write your own story. That student's eyes sparkle, a spark Aryan once had, a spark that had once almost gone out. After the speech, the school announced something new. We will now honor future students who rise from failure with courage and grace. We will call this award the Last Bench Legend Award, in honor of Aryan. Aryan's eyes filled with tears, but not of sadness, of fulfillment. He paused at the gate, turned around, took one last look. He whispered, "Thank you for everything." And then he walked forward, into life, into light, into legacy. You see, a legend is not someone who never fell. It's someone who got up when everyone else had stopped believing. And that is how the last bench gave birth to a legend. That was the final chapter of the Last Bench legend. Aryan's story may have ended, but yours is just beginning. If Aryan's journey touched your heart, like this video to show your love. Comment below, what did this story teach you about failure and courage? Share this full series with someone who needs inspiration. And don't forget to subscribe to Learn English with Stories for more emotional, simple English stories that teach both language and life.